I know how much the mayor earns down to a penny. Same with the premier, same with the prime minister. I know how much Thomas Mulcair makes. I know down to the penny because it's all published. But how much do Indian chiefs make? Well, I don't know. You don't know. And their own band members don't know. The Taxpayers Federation tried to find out how much they earned. Here's what they got back from the government. Scott Hennick joins us now from Edmonton. Scott, you're with the Taxpayers Federation. You actually tried to find out how much Indian chiefs got, but no one would tell you, am I right?
Yeah, well, the first time we asked took us almost a year to get back any information from the federal government. And even then, they actually just gave us a list of salaries. We asked for a list of salaries of what they're making, but they just gave us the numbers. They didn't tell us who, they didn't tell us what province. They just gave us a list of numbers. So the second time we asked, this is what you're showing now on the screen, we actually got some data. They did cut out the name of the band, the name of the person. They gave us enough information to know what province it was and roughly how many people lived on the reserve, but we still didn't get names list. I mean, it'd be like getting the list of all the mayor's salaries from every city in Canada, but not being told which city it is.
That's crazy.
It's absolutely insane.
I mean, the amount of information we can get, let's say, about a CEO of a publicly traded company. We know, again, precisely how much money, how many stock options. It's all public. And that's just if you own shares in the stock. But if you actually are forced to live in an Indian band, this stuff is kept secret even from you. How long did it take you from the first time you inquired to even when just getting that bare bones list, names redacted, band name redacted? How long did that whole exercise of access to information frustration, how long did that take?
Yeah, that first one was about a year with them rejecting us, and then the next one took another 6 months. And then now, I mean, the data that we have that you're showing on the screen there, that's from 08, 09. I mean, we're talking, 3-4 years ago. We've been asking for the numbers for 9, 10, 10, 11. We haven't yet asked for 11, 12 yet, and we still can't get any information for 9, 10, 10, 11 yet. I mean, this information they say is not in any format they can give us. Yeah. I mean, we have to go on data from 08, 09. I mean, it's crazy that we would get told how much the mayor of Toronto was making 4 years ago, and that's the best they can do. I mean, we wouldn't accept it anywhere else in this country. Yeah,
and we don't even have to live under it. Imagine living on an Indian band. Well, here's the thing. Despite the fact that they redacted the name of the chief and the name of the band, some people were able to piece things together. For example, there was one Indian band that they said was in the Atlantic and had 304 members. So some folks sort of pieced that together and realized they were talking about a small Mi'kmaq Indian band called the Glooscap Band. That's the name of it, in Nova Scotia. And they found out, and I want to show that on the screen right now, there is a chief and a band counselor of a tiny 304-person band in Nova Scotia. The band counselor was making $978,000 tax-free, and you can see the other members, the chief and the other band members, were all making healthy six-figure salaries. This is for a band 300 people big. That's 75 homes. I went to a high school with 1,800 kids. The principal maybe made $100 grand. This is a chief and counselors making $900 grand tax-free. That's, I mean, that just feels so crooked, but that's obviously not against the law. I mean, how can such a thing not be illegal?
Well, I mean, it probably should be if they actually dug into some of this. I mean, the guy that was actually making the $978,000, which you do mention is tax-free, so it's actually more like the equivalent of you or I making about $1.8 million a year. Part of the money he was receiving was because he owned the only construction company on the reserve. So in fact, the band was giving him. He was on the band council, and the band council was giving him all the contracts for all the construction on the reserve.
That would be illegal in Parliament. I mean, if Parliament was giving Stephen, let's say Stephen Harper had a road construction company, and surprise, every highway in Canada happened to use Stephen Harper road construction. That would be so illegal. But that's how this guy became a millionaire. I want to show you something. You say it would be worth about $1.8 million or whatever. I went on the Globe and Mail's list of the top paid CEOs of the country. And let me put on, to be in the top 100 CEOs, you can see where it would fit in. You mentioned it's like $1.8 million tax-free. Nancy Southern, who's the CEO of Atco Trailers, huge company, she makes less than $1 million a year. CEOs of some oil companies there. So that band counselor from tiny Glooscap Reserve, 304 people, would be on the top 100 list of the best paid Canadian CEOs. That is a scam. Oh, here, I want to show you one more screen again. This is your data. Thank you, Canadian Taxpayers Federation, for doing this. You guys showed how many bands per province there are Indian politicians actually making more than the provincial premier or than the prime minister. Look at that. There are, what's that, 634 Indian chiefs in the country who are chief or councillors making more than 100 grand. There are 160 of them making more than the premier, and there are 50 politicians in this country on Indian bands making more than the prime minister. Is that true, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is data straight from what was called INAC at the time, now ANAC. But yeah, I mean, the average population on reserve is a little over 1,100 people. There's 50 of them making more than the prime minister, and that's 08-09 data. Now, we know some of that has changed because we released this. In fact, we know one, the Annapolis Valley Band in Atlantic, Canada. Jeanette Peterson was their chief, or is now their chief. She didn't know how much her own band council was making until we released these numbers. That got her incensed enough that she actually ran for council. The former chief of the small band was making $160,000 a year. She now makes, I think it's $60,000. They dropped it by, I think, $100,000 a year after she ran for council and promised that she would reduce her pay. So some of these have come down. But these are 08-09 data, so who knows what it is today. There might be more than 50, there might be less than 50. The thing is, we just can't get access to the information.
And then there's all the boyfriends, like up in Attawapiskat, making even more. Scott, we're out of time. I want to talk to you more about this. We've got to fix this, not because we hate Indians, the opposite. It's because we love them, and we hate the fact they're being ripped off. Keep in touch, Scott.